Happy Monday Mastermind, everyone. I'm your host, one of your hosts, Gabe Mendez today. And today on September 30th, the whole goal is to talk to you guys out there and let you know, keep everyone informed. They say that, education will build the confidence, and the confidence will breed the action. The more we know, the more confident we are, and the more confident we are, the bolder the action. And that's what the goal is here today. So we're going to talk about a few important topics. We brought Mark back on the call today to talk about the economy, what's happening. We also brought on Anna today to talk about interest rates, loan programs, and anything about the loan market that we have to be aware of. And then afterwards, we have a couple of events that we want to talk to you guys about. And then afterwards, we'll wrap up the call, get you guys back out there so you guys can continue to crush, the weekend. So with that said, we'll go ahead and let's go ahead and pass it over to Mark. Are you ready to hop on, man? Give us a quick update. Let us know what's going on around the marketplaces. You're muted, brother.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Perfect. There you go.
Perfect. Sorry, y'all. Okay, I'm sure that y'all, like anybody else, reads news, taglines, everything that says real estate prices are crashing and our real estate market is falling apart. Now, that's all at the micro level. No, it's not. Macro, we're still going over year by year. Year over year, we're up 11% from this time last year. Some markets that we are seeing across the country where prices are dropping a little bit is the reason is because you have a large influx of cash buyers and an oversupply of new builds, which causes these houses to sit on the market longer, which with you as somebody that holds inventory, you need to offload something, you drop the price. Simple supply and demand. So the cities right now across the country where we are seeing the largest drops in prices, just off a percentage standpoint, San Antonio, Texas, Detroit, Austin, Tampa, San Jose, Oklahoma City, Kansas City, Missouri, Seattle, Washington, Denver, Colorado, Miami, Florida. Now, if any of y'all work in these markets, take this as to your advantage. Why? Because whenever you're a buyer, you want to buy the dip if you're working in these markets. If you are not working in these markets, well, great. Use this as a leverage for sellers and say, hey, other parts of the country are starting to see this. You want to get ahead of the curve and then list your market or list your house now on the market in order to receive top dollar.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of wonderful things about you.
Just to kind of recap on that. So what you're saying is, if you are a real estate agent out there and I'm just kind of thinking like someone who wants to be ahead of the curve. So if I'm a real estate agent out there, Mark, what you're saying is in certain marketplaces, they are seeing a dip in prices. And if I'm an agent, one way to capitalize on that is if I'm working with investors, if I have clients who have equity in their property and they can't afford the market that they're currently in because the numbers don't make sense. Like, for example, you and I, we're in San Diego, and sometimes it doesn't make sense for a client to refinance or pull out a HELOC and reinvest back into San Diego. But with these other markets that are taking a dip in prices, it might be a good chance for them to pull their equity out, or investors who have cash and go into those marketplaces and start scooping properties up. Is that right?
I personally invest in 3 markets: Montgomery, Alabama, Corpus Christi, Texas, and then the other one that I'm getting into right now is Cincinnati, Ohio. Reason being for Cincinnati, Ohio was on the list that I just mentioned. So I see that as an opportunity in order to capture properties before they hit their bottom. And then also why I focus on Montgomery, Alabama and Corpus Christi is Montgomery, Alabama, it's a capital city. It still rents at the 1% rule. So I can buy a property for 130 grand and then rent it for $1,300 a month. Still cash flowing today at today's interest rates. So keep that in mind. So if you have clients that own homes out here in California, you then become their real estate advisor. It's not just about buying and selling the home that they live in. It's about acquiring other pieces of property across the country in order for them to become real estate investors. Everybody wants to invest in real estate. Like you are right now, you're selling the #1 product that everybody wants to get their hands on.
Oh my gosh. What a mindset shift with that last comment you just made there. And, Mark, the way that what I'm hearing you say is, and this is a different conversation I'm hearing you say, which is You know, as real estate professionals, we're not just buying and selling. We're looking at maximizing the opportunity. So what's the highest and best use of the property? What's the highest and best use of a client's income and their money? What can we do with it? And as a real estate professional, the way you get paid more money is by bringing more value. So what kind of value are we bringing to our clients in the marketplace other than rates just dropped, buy a house? I just sold a home for $33,000 above market price. We have to think beyond that. And in order for other clients to look at us. Now, look, if we stay at that, and I say this respectfully because I'm in that same position too, but if we stay at just that mindset of buying and selling and transacting, you're more than likely competing with 90% of the agents that are out there at that same conversation, which is buy and sell, buy and sell, buy and sell. But if you step out of that conversation and you step into a conversation that Mark is talking about, now you're studying other marketplaces. Now you know other states. Now he just gave you a list somewhere for all of us to start our due diligence and think, well, what's happening outside of our marketplace that our clients can be taking advantage of? And we spend a little more time understanding that market, making a relationship with an agent in that marketplace, and then educating our clients when they ask us, where should I put my money? We just don't have to sit that, we don't just look at them and say, hey, buy a house here. We can confidently say, have you looked at the Cincinnati market? Prices have dropped X. The purchase price is $100,000, $200,000. And with the amount down, that brings your payment to this. Rentals are this much. And imagine having that conversation now. And now you just picked up a buyer in a different state, a 30, 40% referral. I would charge a little more because I'm making it easier for the agent that I'm referring it to, or get your license in that place. And now you can transact there too. But there's so many ways to be creative that Mark is bringing up right now. And these are opportunities for us to step out and become different. Your prospect, your buyer, your seller, they're looking to you to evolve. Remember, they're not there just to buy their first home and sell their first home. That's not what they're just doing. Our job as an agent is that. It's to guide them through the next step. What is it? After you buy your first home, what do I do? Am I encouraging you to get your property in a trust? Am I encouraging you to 2-3 years down the road, pull out a home equity line of credit, take that money and reinvest it back into the marketplace? Not to over leverage yourself in a way that is detrimental to them, where you're putting them in a bad position, but finding an opportunity for their money to grow. And Mark, tell me if this is right or wrong, but in any market since the beginning of real estate recorded time, there's always a market for some sort of opportunity, right or right?
Always, 100%.
So team, Mark just gave, Mark, can you list that property out one more time so everyone can write that down? Where should we be looking?
And I'll even put it into the chat for y'all as well. So number one, largest decrease we saw, Miami. Then we had, oops, sorry about that. Let me just go back here. Starting up the list, number 11, Raleigh, North Carolina. Number 10, San Antonio, Texas. Number 9, Detroit, Michigan. Number 8, Austin, Texas. Number 7, Tampa, Florida. Number 6, San Jose, California. Number 5, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Number 4, Kansas City, Missouri. Number 3, Seattle, Washington. Number 2, Denver, Colorado. And number 1, Miami, Florida. And also the reason why I brought up Cincinnati is last year, 36% of my revenue came from sending referrals across the country, meaning that I, with my network, made myself the real estate expert through all of my clients in all parts of the country, wherever they were. So it doesn't matter where they're at, they're calling me to ask them about the market. So I have a listing coming up in Cincinnati that I'm about to refer out because I made myself in their mind as the real estate expert. Now, is it a big referral? No, it's going to be a $200,000 condo right outside of the University of Cincinnati. But guess what? That now allows me to build a relationship with a partner in Cincinnati and then get referrals coming back going forward. Do I want to list the house? Absolutely not. Like, being the referral agent is the easiest way to increase your bottom line with only making 2 phone calls. One to the person that has the product and one to the person that's going to sell it. That's how you maximize your time, and you can potentially get paid $1,500 an hour.
Wow, $1,500 an hour. I love the perspective you put on that. Team, I want to ask all of you guys a question. Drop this in the chat. I want to hear everyone's frame of mind. Is it better? Here we go. This isn't a trick question. I want everyone to participate. Is it better to buy a home that is at the top of its price with the lowest possible interest rate? Or is it better to buy a home at its cheapest price with the highest possible interest rate? Which is better? Drop it in the chat. I want to hear everyone's opinion on this. Sonia says cheapest home. Thalia says cheapest home. Margarita says cheapest home. Come on, Jasmine, Valerie, Anith, Zabi, Stephanie, where you guys at? Cheapest, cheapest, cheapest. Lowest price, highest interest. Absolutely yes. As the absolute best way to create the fastest amount of wealth. See, the problem that we're having in today's market is that real estate agents are having an interest rate conversation. And some lenders are having an interest rate conversation. That's the worst conversation you should be having as an agent, and not the best, in my opinion, if you're a loan officer. It's not my field of expertise, so I won't speak too much on it, but I'll tell you from the outside perspective, you never want to have a conversation with a client about the interest rate. As a loan officer, I would be focusing strictly on payment. And as a real estate agent, I'd be focusing strictly on opportunity. And what Mark just talked about is a huge opportunity. What does everyone want to do? Regardless if you're an investor or not, what is it everyone wants to do? They want to feel like an investor. They want to feel like they made a right buying choice and there's opportunity for the equity to grow and they can exit down the road. Now, if the exit means sell, if the exit means have a home equity line of credit, pull the money out and reinvest, but they want to have some sort of exit strategy. And so you have to tell a client, look, it doesn't matter what the interest rates are right now. We'll negotiate a 2-1, 3-2-1 buy down. You can do a buy down or get a payment right now that's at your max opportunity, but you're buying a home in this marketplace. That's 5% what it was 12 months ago, 24 months ago. It's 10% below what it might be. I mean, on a $500,000 home, you're talking about a property that's $25,000 below what it was selling for 12 months ago, or whatever the statistic ends up being. But are you having that logical conversation with the client so they can start thinking in those terms? You know, in sales, we talk about this. We say he who controls a frame controls a close. So how are you framing the conversation? Are you allowing your clients to listen to the news and then come up with their own decision and their own thought process? Or are you the one putting the lens on your clients and saying, this is how you should be seeing it. This is how you should be thinking about it. And when you shift the way your clients think from what the media, social media is telling them to what it's supposed to be, think like an investor, buy low, sell high, reinvest in a few years, buy when the market's 5% under market value, 10% under market value. When you start shifting the mindset for your client, you empower them to think differently. And now it's just a matter of giving them the facts. But if they're thinking low interest rate, low payment, and you're thinking opportunity, and you never reframe them to think the same way as you're never going to get them the desired outcome. It's always going to feel like you're fighting them and battling with them. Never battle with a client when both of you are thinking from two separate frames of thinking. You must win them to your way of thinking first, and then take them down that outcome. Mark, thank you for that. Thank you for that information there, brother. That was huge. And if there's anything else you want to add, do drop it in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Miss Anita. Oh, I was going to say, I won't call you that. I was going to call her Miss Anna. Do you go by Anita at all? What nicknames do you have over here?
Hi, Gabe. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, some of my family members call me that.
All right. Well, we're family. So Miss Anita, we brought her on today. And if you guys don't know, she's an amazing spirit, amazing energy since the first day that we met. She's also extremely educated in the finance world with loans and with real estate. And she's a very dedicated mother, significant other. She's a gym rat. You see this lady waking up every single morning, crushing her routine. So, I mean, it's just awesome to be surrounded with a bunch of winners. So, I mean, talk to us. What's going on today with the rates and the loans and all of that?
Thank you, Gabe. So I'll focus on like some of the main things that are going on or that like agents, should be aware of. I'll start off with like the national average for interest rates today. So for a 30-year conventional loan, you're looking at 6.21%. And for FHA loans, we're at around 5.8%. VA loans around 5.8% on the interest rate. Again, regardless of what interest rates are, each client will have a different rate. And I think that's one thing that is super important to know as an agent. At the end of the day, the rate that a person gets is going to be based on the type of financing they obtain along with their credit score. So not all clients get the same rate. I mean, some people really still don't know that. They think like if whatever it is that they're seeing on TV or whatever gets quoted, like everyone gets the exact same, which no, like everyone will get the rate they deserve, I guess, at the end of the day, based on credit. Now also when it comes to where the market is headed, we definitely have more applications for purchases is up. There's different sources. Some are coming back saying about 11%. Others are saying all the way up to 14% an increase for new purchases. So it's definitely picking up, and it's about 20% compared to this time last year for refinances. So definitely both sides are picking up. So we're gonna have more buyers. And the biggest thing, like you mentioned, Gabe, to be able to inform like our consumers about is like, we have seen it like during pandemic last time where rates went down, and instead of people taking advantage and knowing that you want to buy the house and refinance it later if you need to, especially if rates are going down, consumers tend to want to hold off because they're always wanting like, what if it gets better, or like the better, or the what if, right? They get stuck in the what if so much. And if they don't really if they're not educated about it, they could put themselves in a really bad situation, which is what we saw last time, where people waited so long and then you woke up one day in March and the next day the rates had doubled. And that's a fact. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen now, because we're definitely like in a downward trend. But it is important for people to know, you want to purchase a property, and if it's going down, then that maybe in 6 months or a year, you'll be able to refinance and maybe get a lower rate, but you've already locked in the property price because you can't refinance that in the future. You can't just go back and say, I want yesterday's price, but in 6 months, you could want that day's rate, and that's okay. You can refinance it. So I think it's super important to know the difference and to educate our consumers with that. And also for them to be very aware that we already have a lot of millions of people that came back, because for every 1% rates drop, it's about 3 to 5. It was like 3 to 5 million. And right now they think it's even way more than that. And the more people you compete with, at the end of the day, it's all demand and supply. The more people that want that same property, the more you're going to have to pay for it. So I feel like these are really important things to be aware of and to talk to our clients about it. Even though I do the lending, when I talk to people about that and when they feel discouraged, or they're like, no, I'm going to keep waiting, I always go over all this stuff that I'm mentioning right now, because I feel like a lot of times they don't know any better and they're just waiting, hoping I'm going to get another quarter lower or another 0.5% lower, but they don't understand what that means related to price, and that they won't really save. Right now it's a great time already. Waiting too long could actually cost people more in price, but also in payment.
Let me pull that apart a bit, because you said so many good things right there. The first thing that I heard you say was the cost of waiting. A lot of clients think a lower interest rate or lower prices, but what they're not realizing is the actual cost of waiting. And so this is something that I did, and I'm going to just give you my experience to the rest of you team. If you had a client, I have a timeline, and I made this a post, but I also sent it out as an email to my entire database. I said, in 2020, the argument was that the market was going to crash and you shouldn't buy a home then. And then in 2021, the argument was that the prices were too high. Don't buy a home because they're overinflated. In 2022, we had the same conversation, but towards the end of the year, the prices started to taper off and rates started to come up. And then 2023, we saw the rates just skyrocket, and now the rates were too high and unaffordable. And what happened was, over those 4 years, I took from 2020, 21, 22, and 23, those 4 years specifically, I took that timeline and I took the average price of a home in San Diego, and I broke it down, and I said, this is how I told the clients. I said, had you bought that home in 2020, which was a couple $100,000 cheaper than it is now, and depending on the year, incrementally, I would tell the client, in 2020 to 2021, you could have had a 10% increase in value. 21 to 22, you could have had another 10 to 15% increase in value. And within those 2 years, you would have been within the tax law to sell your home and make a profit on your property, and you would have been exempt on capital gains for up to $250,000 as a single person or $500,000 as a married couple. And I gave them that, and I told them, you could have sold that condo that first 2 years, and then you could have bought the next move-up property the next 2 years with the equity, rolled it over. And then today in 2024, we'd be talking about your third home by now. And you could have sold your house twice legally within that time frame, and you would have doubled your equity. You would have went from a condo making $150,000 the first 2 years, put it in a $600,000 home. Then you would have sold it for about $850,000. You would have made about $225,000 on that same property, maybe $250,000, and roll that into a $1.2 million property at that point. But see, the clients don't see it all off of a 3.5% down payment. Said differently, team, listen to what I'm saying to you very carefully. Had a client put 3.5% down in San Diego in 2020, they could have bought a 3-4 bedroom condo for $400,000. And that 3.5% down, which let's call it 15 grand, would have turned into $150,000 2 years later. They would have 10x their money. And they would have put $150,000 down on an $900,000 home in 2000, at the end of 21, beginning of 22. They would have rode that way for 2 years, sold it for $300,000, and then used that money for $1 million property, all off of a $15,000 investment. The cost of waiting. Said differently, could your client save 10% of their money every year for the last 4 years at the rate the market was growing? Probably not. Are they getting a 10% increase in their income every single year that the market is growing just to stay on track with the growth of the market? If the real estate market from 2020 to 21 was 10%, did their income grow 10%? Did their savings grow 10%? They would have outsaved or out-earned the market just to have been in a better position 12 months later. Are you explaining it to your client that way? Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client, values are going to go up 10%. So that means $40,000 in value if you decide to buy the same home in 12 months. Is your income going to go up 10%? Are you planning on saving 10% more money just to catch up with a rate of appreciation, not even to be in a better position? Chances are they didn't. And we know that for a fact, because if you look at income across the United States, it hasn't gone up. Specifically in San Diego, has not gone up that much. Excuse me, state of California has not gone up that much. So the cost of waiting. And I thought that was brilliant that you talked about that. And I think what was the second thing you said was the interest rates, about that last point. What was that last point you made? Which is really good. Hopefully you have the notes on that. If not, it's okay.
I actually, I don't. So
Oh,
I would just, I think what I covered was just like really like the price of like waiting off, and like people think they're going to get it for cheaper, and they might get a lower rate, but that does not mean savings. Like that does not really mean they're going to pay less, or that they're going to pay less for a property.
So what I would tell everyone right now is that unless you're an investor, a flipper, a wholesaler, you're buying properties at bulk, like your actual investor. If you're not an investor and you're just a residential buyer, someone to buy for your own primary residence, the best time to get in the game is now.
Right. I agree 1000%. And
Yeah.
then also because right now we do expect for the rates right now, it's like at about a 51% chance that there will be another 0.5 point rate decrease in November when the Feds meet again. So we will most likely continue to see the rates go down. And then it'll be the exact same thing that I mentioned, right? Where they will continue to go down, but then prices will continue to rise as that happens. Another one thing that is really important for you guys to know, like what happens now immediately with rates going down is number one, your lower rate is going to mean that your clients that are approved today, if they were approved 2 months ago, for example, their pre-approval should be updated because they're going to be qualifying between 30 to about 50,000 more. So now you'll be able, to get them into a property that costs more, or they can purchase that at the same value as before with the cheaper payment. So regardless, you want to get that updated. We have also with lower rates finally have, as lenders, we get to see rebates back like available that consumers can use to get a cheaper like monthly payment. And the way that works is like, for me, I like to make everything black and white with everyone, including agents and like consumers, right? You're going to get the best rate if you pay your own closing costs, if you need money for the closing costs, then the lenders do have options where you're able to use rebates. So they'll give you money back as a one-time that you can use towards your closing costs, if you're willing to take a higher rate than the par rate, the rate that you deserve or that you can get at no cost to you or you pay in the bank. So that's definitely, you know, another benefit for people that, let's say, they only have down payment money or a down payment plus a portion of closing costs. That could be something that can benefit if they go with the higher rate. Those, we're starting to see those come back. And then the other thing with like the lower rates is actually that was it. So those were the two things to remember. Like immediately you could do you have more purchasing power, and you guys should definitely have your clients revisit. And then if you do have any other clients that were waiting on the sidelines, which is another thing that you want to revisit, believe it or not, a lot of people that were pre-approved like in 2020, once the rates went up, they literally doubled overnight. A lot of people didn't purchase because they could not anymore. They were like completely out of the market. So some of those people are still waiting on the sidelines right now. Would definitely be a good time for them to be looking at their pre-approval again, because these differences, this 30 to 50, I'm referring to like the last decrease in rates that we've had in this last month. But before that, we had already had another decrease. So at this point, it's already like a whole interest, like 1% lower on the interest. So it's definitely different. So you want to revisit anyone that has been pre-approved before, go through your list, look at people that, you know, were pre-approved and didn't shop and didn't end up purchasing a property, and talk to those again, because you will be very surprised. And don't assume that they've already gone with someone else or whatnot. Just reach out to them. Like that's what I've been doing. People that I knew were holding off because of payment, or they were, you know, out of the market because of the changes. I've been reaching out to them and letting them know the changes, and they are like re-engaging. So that's definitely another opportunity with all these changes in rates. And I don't know if you have something that you want to add to that, Gabe, and then I will end it after with letting everyone know what the new loan limits are going to be for 2025.
So the last thing I want to add on that before you touch on the loan limits, team, I need you guys to really listen to what she just said right there. Pause everything that you're doing. Stop for a moment. Unless you're swimming and drowning in leads, I want you to listen to what she just said. She just said with this rate decrease right now, everyone who was approved 2+ months ago, everyone's purchasing power just increased. So as a sales professional, what do you think we should be doing? How do we add value to our client knowing that the rates dropped, their pre-approval amount increased, they can now buy more home for either the same or lesser payment? What should you be doing as a sales professional who makes a living on sales? You should be texting, emailing, calling, all of these leads from open houses and everything. All these people, whether you know them or not, whether they're your past clients or not, whether they're someone who got pre-approved and decided to wait or not, you should be messaging every single buyer lead. In my opinion, you should be calling them because they can hear the excitement in your voice. And this is what I would say. This is just a conversation based off my personality. It would sound something like this. Anna, good morning. It's Gabe Mendez. How's it going? Small talk, perfect. Hey, listen, just to make a quick conversation quick, you asked me to give you an update every time there was a change in the marketplace, and it's been about 12 months since we last spoke. We met at the open house over on 123 Main Street. Anyhow, the reason for the call today is because rates dropped about 7 days ago, and we just got all the brand new numbers in today. And it's showing that if you got approved over the last 2+ months, that your purchasing power has increased by an X amount, whatever that number might be, 50,000, I don't know. Talk to a lender, talk to Anna, ask her, hey, every 0.5 point decrease, how does that positively impact someone's purchasing power? Let her tell you what that is. So that rates had dropped 0.5%. And with the 0.5% increase, that means your purchasing power has increased by about $50,000. Isn't that incredible? Yes. Well, you asked me to let you know that. Are you still in the market to make a purchase? You know what, Gabe? I am. You know what? Lose my number. You know what? Not right now, because we got some other things that we're dealing with. But you're back in the conversation now. And as a real estate sales professional, your job is to solve problems. So what is it? What's holding you back besides the interest rates? Oh, our credit report. Oh, we got locked into a lease. Oh, we got this. And solve the problem. Start shaving off the layers of the onion, but get back into the conversation. But Gabe, I feel uncomfortable. Gabe, I don't know how to have that talk. Gabe, I don't know. The only way you learn how to swim is not by hiring the best swimming instructor. It's not by watching a bunch of YouTube videos on YouTube University on how to swim. The only way you ever learn how to swim is by jumping in the water and swimming. And yes, classes help. Yes, instructors help and YouTube videos help. But it's not until you're in the water, kicking and swimming, and there's water going down your lungs and your nose, and you can taste the chlorine. It's not until you're kicking when you start implementing it do you actually learn. So how do you get better at calling? How do you get better at making these uncomfortable conversations? You make the call. And over time, they callous over, and you get really good at it. Anna, back over to you. What's the last thing you wanted to talk to us about?
Thank you, Gabe. So the last one is going to be about the conforming loan limits, which apply to conventional loans. Those will officially change on November 4th, but they've already been released, and most, not all, but most lenders will already honor them in application starting immediately. And that just means that now the consumer can borrow more, like towards their home purchase. So right now for like a single family home, we're at 802,650 for an SFR single family. Then for a multi-unit duplex, you're going to be looking at 1,27,750. For a 3-unit property, we're at a 1,242,250. And for a 4-plex or a 4-unit property, you will be looking at 1,543,900. So it has increased. So that means that that same consumer, if they were stopped, not because of income, but because of the actual limits in that specific county, then now they're able to purchase more as well.
And while we have Mark and Ann on the call, does anyone have any questions for them? Go ahead and open the mic if you have a question about the market, about the investment opportunities, about the interest rates, about the loan programs, about the conforming loan limits. If you have any questions, open up your mic and go ahead and ask away. And while you're opening your mic or thinking about your questions, I want to give you guys something else to think about. Why is it important for us to know as real estate professionals? Why is it important for us as agents to know the conforming loan limit in your marketplace? Why is it important? Why should you know that? Why should you know that an FHA conforming loan limit or the loan limit is this amount and this in Riverside versus San Diego? Why does that make a difference? Because it's a humongous difference. It makes a huge difference on their, open for more opportunities. Absolutely. You know exactly how much money they have to put down to get into a certain type of program. See, the easiest way to lose your respect of your client is to not understand the fundamentals of how the loans work. Should you have your lender and you trust and give everything to? Absolutely. But as a sales professional, there's a certain level of understanding that you have to have about these programs and how they work. Because if you don't, and your client knows more about the loan limits than you do, and they come to you, their trusted advisor, on what they should do. And if they ask you a question and you don't know the answer, and every time they ask you, you say, that's a good question, I'll get back to you. Eventually, they're going to get tired of that response. And they're going to see someone else on TikTok, someone else on Instagram, someone else email dripping them with all the answers to the questions they didn't know they had. And they look at you and say, I like her, I like him, but this person over here is answering all my questions and making me feel more comfortable. And this is where you get the text message of, hey, I'm putting my house search on pause. We're not ready to buy right now. Maybe when the rates change. You have those conversations. This is why it's so important to lean into what Anna's teaching you today. Write these things down, understand them. Even if this is your first time hearing about conforming loan limit, if I were you, what I'd be doing is I'd be writing that term down. I'd Google it, I'd ChatGPT it. I'd take Anna on lunch and I'd say, Anna, can you please help me understand what does this mean exactly? And teach it to me. And I would just learn the basic understanding of it so that you can now have a basic level of conversation with a client when that opportunity comes up. I love that. That was so good. I don't see any questions on the chat there, but just make sure.
Hey, can I share something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
All right. This is my current listing strategy that I am using to identify potential sellers right now. Average person sells every 7 to 11 years. So what I do is I go into my MLS, I pick 1,000 home radius, and then I go, draw a box around it and then see all the properties that closed between 7 and 11 years ago within that area that I'm designating. And if there's still properties that were sold that haven't gotten relisted, those are the properties that I'm targeting. build yourself a list of 100 to 200 homes within that category throughout different neighborhoods and start marketing to those families heavily, because eventually we know just by the law of average, they are going to sell. So if you're trying to figure out strategies for listings, that's going to be my listing strategy for y'all this week.
Oh, that was so solid right there. Dude, thanks for sharing that right there.
Gabe, someone asked if I could enter, we could add in the rates for today and the information on the loan limits. So I'm typing that up. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. And then when you're done typing that, can you copy and paste it into the chat so everyone else has it there? And then Mark, if you can also type the opportunity zones that we have right now in the marketplace, maybe with just like a small little, some context when you drop it in the chat so everyone's aware of it.
Absolutely.
And while we'll do that on the last 6 minutes of the call before we let all of you go, I wanted to talk to you guys about really quickly 2 events that we have coming up. We do have an event by Sonia Mancado in SoCal taking place. Sonia, are you there to give us some detail about it? If not, I can pull up the notes myself.
Yes, I am here. So thank you very much, Gabe. We are so excited to have, one of the top producers of ROA to come in from Chicago. So he will be here with us, and also Gabe and the top producer team from, I think it's from Corona, from Corona. And the 3 of them are going to be here as a panel. And they're going to give us all the nuggets, and it's going to be very tough questions that they can just, share with us how they become top producers and how they do in their business. And after that, we're going to do a vision board for 2025. We have also a top producer that she's always committed to do her vision board every year. So she's happy to, share with us her roadmap and how we can do it. So we're going to do actual here, our vision board. So we're very excited. It's October 24th, 11 to 1:30, 2 o'clock, and here in Icor Landing, Cerritos. So I will send, the flyer when it's done. And just please letting know everyone, the capacity is around 70 people. So hope we can put some spaces in other places of the company to accommodate everyone. Thank you so much, Gabe.
October 24th. Thank you, Señorita Sonia. Thank you so much. And the second one, I don't see Ms. Veronica here, but this Saturday, we're having a 2025 business planning clinic. So I want you guys to write this down, 2025 business planning clinic from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. this Saturday on Zoom. For everyone who wants to take their business serious, for everyone who says, I want to increase my production next year, for everyone says next year is going to be different from this year, then I challenge all of you to do something different. This Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., you, your team, all of your agents are invited for free for 4 hours as we do a business planning clinic for 2025. You don't arrive somewhere by accident. You might stumble your way to 3 houses sold a year. You might accidentally, by luck, in charisma, get to 5 to 7 houses per year. You might even get to 9 houses per year because you're attractive, you're fun, you're cool, you're out networking. But to get to 18, 24 units a year, that takes intention. To get to 30 units a year, that takes a game plan. To get to 40, 50 units a year, that takes a team and structure. And in order to get to those higher levels of production, you have to learn from people who are doing it year after year. So Ms. Veronica Larrea and myself will be hosting a business planning clinic from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. this Saturday on Zoom. And we're going to drop it in the chat one more time for all of you. I'd like for you guys all to reserve RSVP. We have to have 75 people minimum. We haven't dropped the registration link yet in order for the business clinic to happen. So I want you guys all to be there. We want to help you guys plan for 2025, exactly what you should be doing step by step, and helping you achieve that. Let's just call it for what it is. Let's just help you make more money in 2025 and intentional about it. And last 3 minutes, I want to wrap up with this here. It's the more I coach and the more I train and I talk to people, the one thing that I feel like everyone really lacks right now in most marketplaces is the confidence. Is the confidence to go out there and do something. The confidence to go out there and become a better producer. And I want to tell you guys where confidence really stems from on a smaller level. It's having integrity within yourself. You know how hard it is to lie about something and then go look at someone in the eyes and tell them that you did this, but knowing that you didn't? You know how demoralizing and discouraging it is as a person to say that you're going to do something and you don't end up doing it because you fall out of integrity with yourself. See, what ends up happening as producers, as agents, as salespeople, as human beings, is that every single time that we tell ourselves we're going to do something and we don't do it, we're stacking it up the losses against ourselves, and we're giving ourselves more subconscious reasoning as to why we'll never do it. And then subconsciously, we tell ourselves we can't, we won't, we don't. And then we create excuses for it. This is how the brain operates. See, every time you tell yourself, I'm going to get up tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. and I run, and you don't get up at 5 a.m. and you don't run, subconsciously, your mind stacks up a loss. And that loss begins to eat at your confidence. That loss then begins to eat up at every other aspect of your business. Well, shoot, how am I going to tell my agents to do this if I can't do it? How am I going to tell my children to do this if I can't do it and I'm not actively doing it? How am I going to tell my clients to do it if I can't do it? But see, the complete opposite is true too. If you tell yourself you're going to wake up at 5 a.m. tomorrow and you wake up at 5 a.m., you just stacked up a victory. If you tell yourself you're going to run on the treadmill for 20 minutes and you hit 20 minutes, you just stacked up another victory. And subconsciously, now your brain says, we can do anything we tell ourselves we can do. See, it's going to be almost impossible to lead other people when you can't lead yourself. How can you lead other people if you can't lead yourself? The first person that you should be thinking about influencing every single day is not other people. You want to become a real influencer? Let me tell you the key to becoming a real influencer. It's influencing yourself first. If you can't influence yourself, who can you influence? Because people are going to look at the results and say, well, you're telling me this, but you're doing that. You're saying this, but you're doing this. It's incongruent. The biggest influencers of the world are people that can influence themselves first. And that type of confidence can't be replaced. That type of confidence can't be bought. You can't put that confidence on a suit. You can't wear that confidence with makeup. That confidence comes from the inside and it oozes from your pores. Let me tell you, from a guy that was faking it till he made it to a guy that actually made it and now wants to go to a next level. When I first got started in the real estate space and I was trying to fake it till I make it, every time I sat across the kitchen table from a seller and I was out of congruency, I didn't practice my scripts, I didn't do my follow-up calls, I didn't do my door knocking, and I sat across the table from a seller, they could smell my commission breath because I knew that they knew that I knew I wasn't worthy of it. But when I changed my habits and I changed my discipline and I showed up every single day to the gym, I worked every single day on my scripts. 5 days a week, I was door knocking and cold calling. Every single Saturday, I was hosting an open house. And I have proof that I was putting up open house signs at 6 and 7 in the morning on Saturday and Sunday. When I went to bed at 8 o'clock, writing thank you cards to all the leads I just met. I knew when I sat across that table that I was the hardest working realtor in that city and in that county. I believed it because let me ask all of you a question. Drop it in the chat right now. How many of you in your neighborhood, when you went door knocking, how many of you have seen, I don't know, let's call it 3 or more realtors door knocking in your neighborhood in the last 12 months? How many of you, drop it in the chat, have seen 3 or more realtors door knocking in your neighborhood in the last 12 months? Go ahead. Drop it in the chat. I'll tell you right now, I live in one of the really nicest areas in Bonita, which is an unincorporated part of Chula Vista in San Diego. And I've seen this many realtors knocking on my door since I've lived there. Since I bought the home in 2020, this many real estate agents have knocked on my door. Let me see what the comments say. We have 0. Nita says, I haven't seen any. Jaden says. Jasmine says, I agree. Come on, team. Has anyone seen 2? Have you guys seen 1? 0. Louis says 0. Margarita says, lived here for 7 years and none have stopped by. Let me tell you what door knocking did for my confidence. When I would knock on doors and I could sit across the table and the owner looked me in the eye and they said, Gabe, why should we pick you over the neighborhood expert? I could confidently look them in the eye and say this. That expert that you're hiring might have more listings than I will. And that's a problem because how can they treat your property like the only one? They might have more listings than me, but what they don't have is more time. And I'm going to be honest with you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. You're going to be my only listing. You're going to be my only client that I'm working with. And that's a huge plus to you because you get 7 days of my time. You get 24 hours of my time. And I'm going to bleed every opportunity. I'm going to bleed every chance I get to making your listing sell and give it the best attention it deserves. And you want to know how that's true? How did you meet me, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? Door knocking. How many times have I knocked on your door, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. This is how you know I'm going to be the hardest working agent for you. All I'm asking for is the opportunity, and I promise you, you won't regret it. Just give me the chance. Boom, get it signed right there. Because I believed I was the best agent for that seller because I had stacked my confidence. I showed up when I said I was going to show up. I dressed up when I said I was going to dress up. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't feel like dressing up today. There's days I don't feel like working out. But for the last 7 days, I'm so proud of myself. For the last 7 days, I've woken up at 4:30 in the morning, tired. And you can ask Rashad, or you can ask my team. Gabe, you have bags under your eyes, you look tired. But I said, it doesn't matter because the next version of me requires a different version of me. I can't get to where I want to get to being the same Gabe. I can't be Gabe 2.0 and get Gabe 3.0 results. I can't be last year's Gabe and get next year's results. If you want something different, you got to do something different. If you want something better, then you have to be better. If you want more, then you have to do more. You have to be more. You have to see yourself as more. But how can we see ourselves as more if we're constantly stacking up losses against us? Well, Gabe, life happened. Gabe, my kids are sick. Gabe, X, Gabe, Y. Life is going to happen. The one thing that you can always bet on in this world is that life will always happen to you. It's always going to happen to you, but it's never what happens to you that determines the outcome. It's how you respond and react to what happens to you that determines the outcome. Let me say that one more time for those who didn't catch that. If life is happening to you, someone's sick, someone passed away, the leads aren't answering, things are happening, you got a flat tire. Someone just towed my wife's car 2 days ago with my son, and I had an opportunity to be mad and cry about it, or I could just get it done and fix it and move on from it. It's never what happens to you that determines the outcome. When it happens to you, you have two choices. You can fall and fail, or you can rise and stand up and grow. Every time life happens to you, you have two choices. You can fail or you can rise to the occasion. It's how you respond in those moments that determine the outcome. 4:30 in the morning, you got two choices. You can snooze and lay in bed for 20, 30 more minutes, or you can get up when you told yourself you were going to get up, and you can suck it up and move on. It's how you respond in those moments that build the confidence. It's how you respond in the moments that make you feel better about you. See, when you don't have that type of confidence that comes from the inside, then that confidence can be stripped away. It's easy for someone to come up to you when you have this imposter syndrome of confidence. Oh, I look good, I feel good, but on the inside, you feel empty and sad because you didn't keep your word. It's easy for someone to say, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do that, and they start stripping the layers away from the outside that made you feel good, and then you're left with yourself. At the end of the day, you are left with you only. When you go to bed, you lay your head down at night. When you're by yourself in the office, it's you versus you. When you're at 4:30 on the treadmill, you don't feel like running. It's you versus you in those moments. And that's when you have to rely on you the most. That's when you have to rely on your character the most. That's when you have to rely on your discipline the most. Motivation will get you started, but discipline will keep you going. Team, I'm urging every single one of you, for this next season in your career, for this next season for your family, for the next season for yourself, make yourself a promise to yourself that you're going to get better. Elect small wins. When you say you're going to do something, do it. When you say that I'm going to show up Saturday at 10 a.m., do it. Put it in your calendar. Don't make any excuses. Hey, bro, we're going to go to the Padres game. We're going to the Dodgers game. We're going over here. Oh, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. I guess I can do it. That's no problem. Well, you just told yourself you were going to do something, and now you didn't. So then now that type of confidence oozes through your skin because your clients can read it through you. Team, if there's anything I can teach you today on today's call before we start the week, this entire week, commit to what's on your calendar. And if your calendar is empty, fill it up. Start with a morning routine, start with an evening routine, start with the prospect and following up time, and commit to those times this week. And every single week you build on that progress, and you're going to be a completely different person just by having those wins, because there's something that changes on the inside that no one can take away. If you want something different, you got to do something this week, team. That's all we have for you guys today. Thank you for joining us on the Monday Mastermind at the Winner Circle here at Realty of America. We'll see you guys on the Winner Circle Wednesday call, and then this Saturday for the Business Planning Clinic. A big thank you to Anna. A big thank you to Mark for being on here today. You guys give them a shout out and some love, and we'll see you guys on the next call. God bless you all. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.